What you see on your screens is Donald Trump's version of America. People being ripped out of cars and getting manhandled. By masked men.
Get out of the street. Just get out of the street. Stay on the sidewalk. Go home.
Is this good?
Go home, brother. Not your brother. I know
Yeah,
you're not
right.
my brother. That's a fact.
Right.
Stay on the sidewalk. Stay on the sidewalk.
What's your name? What's your name?
Get out here. Get out here. Why do you have a weapon in your hand for? For what? Look at this tough guy. Look at this tough guy with his weapon in his hand.
Look at her! I know her, my daughter! Mexican! Something around us! Sácale el video, a ver si está bien!
What part of you not understanding?
I'm a registered nurse and she's on the...
Doña Matilde sells tamales on this sidewalk, but paramedics had to come get her because she fainted when she saw federal agents arrive around 10 in the morning outside of this Lowe's shopping center in Pacoima.
Estoy muy preocupada por su salud de ella porque se desmayó. Ella está enferma.
She says her comadre suffers from diabetes and high blood pressure. She had to be taken to the hospital. Yolanda was with her and she was able to prove she's a resident.
Cuando ellos llegaron por todos lados y la agarraron y se desmayó ella y luego la jalonearon y la tiraron en el suelo. Toda la alzaron así a fuerza, la fue como está pesada, no la podían alzar y la alzaron toda, hasta su blusa le alzaron y le dejaron ver su ropa interior y todo.
She said federal agents came from everywhere and they threw her on the ground, even showing some of her undergarments.
As it pertains to that first video, the man being beaten by alleged ICE agents is Narciso Barranco, the father of Alejandro Barranco, who was 25 years of age and a veteran of the United States Marines. Plus, Narciso is the grandfather to two boys who are active duty military. He was beaten, pepper sprayed, and has a dislocated shoulder, per Alejandro speaking with the LA Times. He states his dad had not received medical treatment, food, or water after more than 24 hours in a detention facility in LA.
When you watch what played out in Orange County, how can you not be sickened by that? Alejandro said, and you read his statement, that you've got four heavily armed, and I'm paraphrasing here, 200-plus pound men kneeling, just watch it, beating a man who was out there cutting grass. He was cutting grass. And these heavily armed, masked agents who don't identify themselves to people, who are alleging that he tried to attack them with his weed whacker, when in fact, if you watch the video that DHS has put up, he was being sprayed with some kind of pepper spray as he ran away. They're ubiquitous all over the city right now. And the tactic is deliberately to terrorize, to scare people. That's the whole stated goal. It's deterrence. This is U.S. immigration policy 101 supersized. It's what family separation was. Stephen Miller didn't want to just take 5,500 children away from their parents. He wanted to do tens of thousands of them. And now every day in LA, as you and I have talked about for months since Donald Trump was elected again, mass deportation is family separation, just by another name. And now, in every corner of the county of Los Angeles, the county with the most undocumented people in the country, the most populous in the country, where people are preaching tolerance and acceptance of their neighbors and their friends and their fellow parishioners and classmates. Every day people go out on the street worried that this is going to happen.
Living in the States, you're living in one of the most brutal societies in the history of the world. You know, the country who inherited the genocide of the Native American peoples, a country which participated in chattel slavery, you know, the only country in the world to use and drop an atomic bomb on another country, society. The country which murdered and enslaved millions in Southeast Asia as a result of the Vietnam War. And we drew from the people who resisted. We were inspired because we feel that any society or any government or any system that is set up solely to profit a wealthy class, while the majority of the people toil and suffer and sell their labor power, so long as that system's only true motive is profit interest and not the maintenance and betterment of the population to meeting human needs, then that society should not stand. It should be challenged and questioned and overthrown.
Rage Against the Machine frontman Zach De La Rocha. Here he is, photographed by the great Atiba Jefferson as he teams up with Born X Raised, a brand that is donating 100% of the profits to the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, an organization that offers legal services to immigrants in the workforce, immigrant students, and immigrants facing deportation. This is Los Angeles. In LA, we fight alongside our undocumented brothers and sisters. It's like the old school used to say, con safos. It's just the nature of things here, whether you like it or not. Because here, we form a community that transcends borders. Here, we reject the idea that anyone is illegal. We are a dignified city of millions of international workers from every corner of the globe. And together we are developing the capacity to defend our mothers, our fathers, our families, and our children from ICE and their racist and armed vigilantes now invading our communities. It's para los niños that we organize to fight for those who can't. For those of you who stand on the sidelines and consider yourself safe, believe us when we say that you are not. Fascism is lawless. Its agents weaponize what they consider to be the law and will only apply it to those that they target while they illegally detain, harass, terrorize, and disappear the members of our communities with total impunity. As we speak, they are attempting to blur the lines between what is protest and what is terrorism, between who is an innocent worker and who is a violent criminal. This could soon be the norm, whether you're a citizen or not. To stand with us is to stand up for yourselves. Born and raised in Mexico, black and brown, no backing us down. Solo el pueblo salva al pueblo, in peace for as long as possible. What I appreciate about Zach is when you see him for good reason. He has joined the pro-Palestinian protesters. He has spoken out when it comes to the ICE raids. And what I think sort of said something to me as a fan of Rage was there were some reports that he hated the commercialization of not just music, but also the success of the band. And he decided to not go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. I believe that if you are in that position, you are free to do whatever you wish, but it just says something, and not that any others didn't, but that he stuck to his morals of hating how the industry is, because instead of, as we have covered over and over in so many different videos, dissecting different songs that really have left a lasting impact, instead of hyper-focusing on the lyrics and the activism, it seems that he despises how it is co-opted by the suits and carried out by the suits in order for them to continue profiting. It's like, yeah, we'll give you a microphone, but that's all you're gonna get, which is gross. But I respect Zach. As I've said many other times when I've covered people that I think are worthy of the attention, would love, and I mean love, to interview him. I know he doesn't do a lot of press, that's okay. But I appreciate him standing up. I appreciate Tom Morello going to the protests as well. It says a lot. It says a lot. And if your favorite band / artist has not spoken out, or has not attended a protest, or hasn't said anything about the fascistic tendencies of this current administration, then, well, hopefully you will have your own self-reflection to understand that maybe they don't represent your ideals. Maybe they don't really give a 4-letter word about it, and potentially they only care about themselves.
No one deserves to go through something like this behind bars. He has lived in Florida for more than half his life and worked for the same construction job for many decades. Every day that goes without him here is a day lost forever. This is about being human, about love, connection, and presence. The one thing he needs the most is the one thing that we're being kept from giving him, which is us. I feel that it would be immoral and inhumane to let a man who is suffering, who is terminally ill, spend what little time he has left in pain and isolation. Please don't let him die in a cell. Please don't let his final memories be of those of pain and isolation. The American flag stands for compassion, kindness, liberty, and justice for all. We're all human, and today I'm asking for one human act of compassion to please let my dad come home.
My vote, again, is to deny the request for conditional medical release.
This is Cynthia pleading with the judge for the release of her terminally ill father. In a follow-up video, she would admit,
as easy as it would be for me to say that I wasn't thinking when I voted or that I don't watch the news, I had to ask myself the same question that hundreds of you are asking me, is why did I vote the way I did? I feel like I came through some sort of revelation, or like blindfolds were ripped off my eyes. I started seeing things differently. I questioned my beliefs, my choices, and my role in all of it. I started to realize that it wasn't just this one choice I made. It was kind of a accumulation of choices I've been making for years. I feel like living in South Florida, surrounded by Republican voices, I was brainwashed into thinking I was one of them. I fell for the propaganda, the normalization of cruelty, and I believed the lies that gave me a false sense of security and belonging. I was convinced that voting for Trump was for the economy or against crime, when in reality I was supporting a man and a movement that dehumanizes people. He basically built his platform on targeting immigrants, spreading hate, and pushing policies that ultimately broke families apart. I regret my vote so deeply, and if I could go back and change it, I would. My vote wasn't just a mistake, it was the ultimate betrayal of the very people that I come from.
that she voted for Donald Trump and now regrets casting her ballot that way. My issue is this. Over the first 100 plus days, when you saw families being separated, loved ones being deported, a 4-year-old with cancer being deported, that didn't strike you at all? I do understand the quote goes, when it hits close to home. I do understand that. But why does it take hitting so close to home for it to matter, and also have a shred of compassion and empathy toward your fellow man? That is the problem I have with so many of these voters who are now coming out saying that they regret it. Good, join the coalition. But will you actually? Time will tell. But why did it take XYZ to happen for you to say, oh, I regret my vote. And the thing is, it's going to continue to happen with sports being a driver. U.S. Customs and Border Protection tweeted even recently that with the Club World Cup kicking off in Miami, Florida, where Cynthia is, they will be suited and booted, ready to provide security for the first round of games. Quick question, and it's a simple one. Why? That followed Vice President J.D. Vance's comments on the World Cup when he quipped that folks are welcome to come to the 2026 World Cup. But when time is up, they'll have to go home or talk to Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Thomas Kennedy of the Florida Immigrant Coalition told NBC6 in South Florida, the messaging that CBP is using is a bit cryptic. It's sort of alluding that people should have their paperwork in order to attend the games. It creates an environment where people are less likely to come watch the games because of just sheer intimidation. Jorge Lowry, managing director at U.S. advocacy group American Immigration Council, was quoted by Reuters stating, it's reasonable to expect that lots and lots of folks that just want to attend these events are either immigrants themselves here permanently, temporarily, even folks that may be undocumented. It is perfectly reasonable to be scared. We haven't seen large-scale immigration enforcement actions at sporting events like this historically, but this is also a moment that is not like any other moment in history in the United States of America. And guess what the outcome was of that single tweet by CBP? Well, prices that were tracked by The Athletic revealed the original cost of a seat was $349. Ahead of Saturday's game featuring local player Lionel Messi, the prices hit $69. There were thousands unsold. Writes HuffPost, the sports outlet also found a deal marketed to local college students where 5 tickets could be had for $20, dropping the cost per ticket to just $4. And they say, go woke, go broke. I'm curious, and y'all can leave some comments. What is the inverse of that when it is coming from the federal government and is straight up self-inflicted? One soccer fan named Rafael, who hails from Monterrey but has lived in Southern California, was pumped to go see his favorite club at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena in the FIFA Club World Cup. After CBP's now deleted tweet was sent, he and his wife scrapped their plans and sold their tickets. Out of fear of apprehension or persecution, they chose not to attend. Think about that. Think about where we are at as well. Our friends, our loved ones, our associates, our neighbors, our communities are being torn apart, and many of them are in fear of going to something like a sporting event because this administration is playing games. They're playing games with these people. We can't even go to a baseball game, a football game, a soccer game without ICE potentially harassing, harming, and deporting people. That is where we're at in this country right now.
We need freedom of speech. And freedom of speech is only relevant if people are allowed, if people you don't like are allowed to say things you don't like. That is the only time freedom of speech is relevant. It can't be that the government is deciding what is or is not misinformation or disinformation, because then you get politics applied to those labels, and in fact, you simply get the suppression of freedom of speech. I think wokeism is evil because it is racist, sexist, and anti-free speech.
This bumbling buffoon will have you believe that he legitimately cares about protecting free speech rights in America. Meanwhile,
you know, instead of just taking him at his word, you have to look at what Elon actually did once he bought the site. And the truth is, once he owned the platform, he cracked down on free speech. He suspended reporters who reported on him, and accounts he disagreed with politically, and he even banned the word cis because it made him feel icky. At one point, after realizing Joe Biden's posts were getting more hits than his were, Elon even forced his engineers to change the algorithm so that his personal tweets would get special priority.
Comedian, podcaster, writer, and labor activist Adam Conover throws cold water on Elon and the right wing's victimhood complex and phony concerns for upholding legitimate free speech rights.
So Elon's definition of free speech is when everyone else is forced to listen to his speech.
That's what it's always been about to the right wing, posturing as free speech warriors when all they actually want is the permission to say whatever unhinged nonsense comes to their minds with zero consequences. But when you give them a taste of their own medicine, especially a thin-skinned, fragile dude like Elon, this is what you get.
And Tesla customers are being intimidated all over the country and all over Europe. Mm-hmm. Does that help Tesla? I mean, you had Tim Waltz, who's a huge jerk, running around on stage with a Tesla stock price where the stock price had gone in half, and he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do! What a creep! What a jerk! Like who derives joy from that? And it was pointed out to him that actually, Minnesota State Pension Fund is a major investor in Tesla. But he didn't care. He was so overjoyed by Tesla stock going in half. Does that sound like a good person to you? I don't think so.
While Tim Walz would walk back his comments after news broke about the state pension fund's Tesla investment, the central point remains valid. You can't proclaim yourself to be an unequivocal free speech warrior and then go on a propaganda outlet like Fox looking like you're about to cry and pandering for sympathy over consumers exercising their free speech rights to criticize, protest, and boycott one of your businesses, let alone strong-arming the administration you're working for into classifying anyone who vandalizes a Tesla or other Tesla property as domestic terrorists. Hey guys, quick break in the action. I have a new show coming out called The Rick Strom Show. It is going to be awesome. I'm interviewing musicians, athletes, producers, writers, journalists, authors, sports doctors. Go check it out at youtube.com/@TheRickStromShow. Also be sure to throw me a follow on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. It can all be found in the description box below. Thank you.
For a while there, it seemed like Elon was on top of the world. I mean, he's basically the president. He's firing scientists who are way smarter than he is, and he's deciding whether people live or die, since hundreds of thousands of people are literally going to be killed by Elon's cuts to disease prevention programs. But hey, Elon don't care. He's way too busy playing with his favorite chainsaw. Dude has been living the dream. But all of a sudden, Tesla stock started dropping. Now, I'm not gonna lie, all of this has been pretty satisfying to watch, but it's more than just schadenfreude. The turn against Tesla in American society is proof that Elon is not invincible, but that in fact he and Trump are extremely vulnerable to public pressure. And it provides a roadmap for how average people can push back against what is happening in this country.
Conover is spot on yet again. The Tesla protests are striking this much of a nerve with Elon because he's taking hits not only to his finances, but also his incredibly fragile ego. And when our lives are being controlled by the most insecure, wealthy psychopaths in the world, the best way to fight back is using what little power we have to organize and coordinate protests that directly affect their bottom lines. That's just one reason why it's so disturbing to see the broader crackdown on free speech and protest rights that we've been seeing since Trump took office again.
On Friday at a town hall, Victoria Spartz said one of the most alarming things that I think I have ever heard an elected official ever say.
You violated the law. You are not entitled to due process.
That's right. She just said if you violate the law, you're not entitled to due process.
They are not trying to hide it anymore. To MAGA stooges like Representative Victoria Spartz, all that matters is power and control. And if you think they'll stop at just throwing out due process protections for undocumented immigrants, visa holders, and other non-citizens, especially those who speak out against the Trump admin and or the actions of the Israeli government, you need to take a hard look in the mirror.
For the people that entitled to due process will have, but for the criminals and people here breaking the law, we have to put stop to that. And we need to deter. We need to deter illegal activities because we have to obey the law. I don't think anyone listened to me, but I think I stated my opinion. You might disagree with it, but we'll go to the next question.